And it is the first big interview of 2019. Prime Minister Narendra Modi's first interview of the new year will be broadcast live here on India Today at 6 p.m. All eyes are on whether the Prime Minister will speak on several burning issues, including the Rafale deal, agrarian distress, the state of the economy, and even the simmering demand for a Ram Mandir. Many issues on the table. It's a 95-minute interview to Asian News International's editor Smita Prakash that plays out at 6 p.m. right here on India Today. I want to go across now to Padmaja Joshi, who's been tracking many of these political developments. Padmaja, it's easy to think of questions that could be asked in this interview. There are many, issues on which the Prime Minister has been accused of not commenting, staying silent, issues that, threaten the BJP going into 2019. So huge anticipation ahead of this 95-minute interview.
Is talking about whether they will be answered by the Prime Minister, whether he will care to elaborate or talk about it. Point number one is his report card of the last 4.5 years. Is this going to be his pitch for the next election? Remember, already we have broken on India Today how the Prime Minister is going to go on a rally blitz. Almost 100 rallies over 20 states is what he's going to carry out before the formal election campaign of the BJP begins. Point number two, the direct attack on him by Rahul Gandhi, Chaukidar Chor hai. That has been the rallying cry of the Congress, despite the setback, the seeming setback that they received from the Supreme Court, which refused to have a separate probe into the Rafale deal. Point number three, the Ram Temple issue. Remember, you've had the VHP and the RSS rallying for a Ram Temple, with the Sangh, especially Mohan Bhagwat himself, throwing his weight behind the Ram Temple, saying, listen, we need to have the construction begin now. Will the government clarify its stand? Why is this important, Shiv? Also because in 6 days from now, we are going to, in fact, less than 6 days from now, in the first week itself, we are going to have the next hearing on the Ram Temple. So far, the government stated position has been that we are going to go by whatever the court says. However, in the last hearing, remember, the court said, we have other priorities. We'll see whether the hearing will happen or the verdict will happen in January, February, March. It could be anything. This is not something that can be interminably delayed, is the message that has gone out from a united Sangh Parivar to the government and the BJP. And finally, are we going to hear something about the result of the 3 elections that have just gone by, which are being seen as a major blow to the BJP, where they have lost out, especially states like Rajasthan and Madhya Pradesh. It's being seen as a major setback for the BJP. Will the Prime Minister also elaborate on that? That is the critical question that everyone in the newsroom right now across the country is asking. Shiv.
And it really is the only question to ask, because, until that interview actually starts broadcasting at 6 p.m. and it'll be here fully, all 95 minutes of it on India Today. The question to really ask is, will the Prime Minister be asked those questions? Has he responded to many of those burning issues? I want to bring in our National Affairs editor, Rahul Srivastav, in on this as well. Rahul, any inside information before that interview plays out? Is it going to be just, an overarching kind of laying down of the road to 2019, more like an election sort of interview? Or are there going to be many of those tricky questions that the Prime Minister has been accused of being silent about?
Shiv, usually the Prime Minister picks up either the end of the year or the start of the new year to send out a message. Now, it's supposed to be a long interview, and at a moment when the government has had a bit of BJP had a bit of a setback in 3 states, and if you see the kind of momentum in 2018, I think politically it was perhaps the worst year for the Narendra Modi government and the BJP. There were losses electoral, not only in Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan and Chhattisgarh, but remember that there were losses of bypolls in several critical constituencies. Also, since May this year, last year, we had petrol prices rising to fresh levels, which were politically discomforting for the government. So much so that in Maharashtra and several states where the excise and VAT is very high, petrol prices had breached the 90 rupee mark per litre. Apart from political losses, the BJP found itself that somewhere the popularity of the party is on the wane. And that is why I will say that Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Amit Shah definitely must have been drawing some kind of broad roadmap for 2019. One, and if any measures, say for example, the last 3 states elections very clearly indicated a large amount of distress, one in the farm sector, and the second as far as the joblessness is concerned. Now, if the government has to send out a political signal, it cannot do it closer to the elections. Any policy formulation, say sometime in February or March, may be always perceived and criticized for being political, aimed at the elections than anything else. And that is why in a long interview, the Prime Minister will definitely be answering to a lot of questions which have been raised. Say, for example, Rafale, say, for example, the Sohrabuddin case which has come about, the CBI, the RBI and others. But I think definitely one can expect some kind of a roadmap for a clincher, which I will say, for 2019 elections.
Absolutely. You know, Padmaja, there have been interviews in the past, where certain comments by the Prime Minister, like the puppy coming below the car, etc. Those things have been taken and they've become much larger than the interview themselves. Given that we're standing right now on the threshold of what is certain to be the most viciously contested election, should we expect that comments of that kind could be there in this interview? Or, being the political reporter you are, do you think it's going to be more staid, a more measured kind of interview?
Going by the trajectory of what the Prime Minister has been saying over the last 1.5 years, I personally have a feeling that even though he's not going to address individual remarks, it is going to set the tone and the pitch for what the BJP is going to take to the people for the elections next year. Of course, there is going to be the entire tenor of how the Prime Minister is always attacked personally, but a very strong report of the last 4.5 years is also going to be there. However, we have to keep in mind, Shiv, that there can't be any real policy announcements. That's because the winter session of Parliament is currently underway. So while the Parliament is in session, no real policy announcements will be made. But yes, there will be, there could be lateral response to especially the attacks that he has come under. People saying that the Modi wave is ebbing, people saying that there is personal corruption on part of the Prime Minister. All of that is going to be addressed and also really tell the party and the people what is the BJP's theme for the next 4 months after which India votes.
Absolutely. Rahul, one final question. It's going to be about 45 minutes before that interview plays out here on India Today. What are the trouble topics as far as Narendra Modi is concerned? Ultimately, I have a feeling, that questions are discussed ahead when an interview of this kind really happens. So uncomfortable questions may not actually be asked. But what are the tricky stumbling block issues as far as the Prime Minister and this government are concerned right now?
Shiva, yes, a lot of these interviews do have a certain amount of participatory effort as far as the questions are concerned. But in such interviews, there is one catch, Shiv, always, that the Prime Minister usually cannot escape what we call the burning questions of the times. Yeah. Contemporary politics and contemporary issues cannot be ignored. So the style of questioning may be different, but if the Prime Minister leaves those issues unaddressed, there will definitely be a political problem for him. So I think, irrespective of the manner in which the questions are asked, the Prime Minister will like to speak. I think the twin setbacks to the opposition in terms of the Sohrabuddin case and the Rafale case definitely will dominate, because these are the two cases in which not only has the government been facing political fire, but vis-a-vis in terms of corruption and involvement in crimes, but also in terms of meddling with the institutions. If you see, for example, Rafale, it was said that the Cabinet Committee on Security wasn't brought into picture, and the entire process subverted a lot of institutional framework. Then in the case of Sohrabuddin, the charge always has been that the government is trying to use the CBI, and also what has transpired in the CBI in the last few months, that the government was creating an institution, was meddling into its affairs. Now, because of the Sohrabuddin court order, the government has got a stick in its hand. It can say that in the past, the government, UPA government, was trying to utilize the CBI as an institution to attack the opponents. The Congress will have difficulty in countering that, because when a court says in 2G case that everybody is exonerated, then the CBI is a good agency and the courts have done a good job.
Very true.
But in Sohrabuddin, they can't attack, the Congress cannot adopt a different policy.
In fact, I actually do want to talk a little bit more about the Sohrabuddin case, Rahul. Stay with me. Padmaja, thanks very much for joining us on that story. We're shifting focus now to the Sohrabuddin story that Rahul was just referring to, because there is this huge political war that has erupted now between the BJP and Congress over this infamous case, the Sohrabuddin encounter case. Union Minister Smriti Irani just took to a podium to address a press conference where she has lashed out at the Congress. Addressing the media, Smriti said that former Congress chief Sonia Gandhi used the CBI against BJP National President Amit Shah. The minister went on to say that the CBI, at the behest of the Congress, manufactured evidence to frame Amit Shah. Earlier, on December the 28th, a special court in its verdict on the Sohrabuddin encounter case came down heavily on the investigation agency. The court had said that the CBI was more concerned in establishing a premeditated theory in order to frame political leaders.
In 2010, the CBI comes and arrests Amit Shah. But the same day, it goes and tells a judge that we don't seek to interrogate Amit Shah, we just want him arrested. They detain him without cause. The kitchen cabinet of Sonia Gandhi waged war against their political opponent, so much so that when Amit Bhai Shah brought his desire to be discharged, and during that discharge, the special court categorically recorded the following: that the applicant is apparently shown to be involved, I quote, in this case by CBI for some political reasons.
You have a situation where the CBI chief is raided. There are financial situations that have come up. The economy is in bad shape. Under these circumstances, Smriti Irani ji should focus on her ministry and talk about the developments in her own ministry rather than make these strange charges which will affect her own credibility. People of India have woken, and now you can't put them back to sleep. Time for people to understand the current dispensation and what they have done to India's democracy.
And Rahul Srivastav is still with us. Rahul, perhaps an indication of the political longevity of the Sohrabuddin encounter case that you had Smriti Irani, a minister, addressing a press conference almost dedicated to that one issue just now.
Shiv, on the day the election results to the 5 state assemblies were coming and the BJP was emerging as the loser, it was very clear, and we were discussing it during our programming, that the BJP will be stung by these setbacks, and BJP will come out with a ferocity under Narendra Modi and Amit Shah that the political opponents have not really known. If you take, for example, just 2 days back, we had press conferences by something close to 80 odd BJP leaders across the country on the issue regarding the Enforcement Directorate revelations in the Augusta Westland case. Now, today we have Smriti Irani stepping up, talking about the Sohrabuddin case and the court order. This is going to be the order. The BJP is going to come hard and fast on the run to take on the opposition, which is trying to come together. So the setbacks which were there over the last several months, I will again repeat, that 2018 was perhaps the worst year for the Narendra Modi government and the BJP compared to the earlier years. That is why you see today you have an opportunity. The BJP has an opportunity. Smriti Irani is thrown in, and she attacks the Congress on several elements of the Sohrabuddin case. It is not just that the CBI was utilized to target Amit Shah, but also to say that CBI was misused by the government. And on the same day, for the positives, you will have Prime Minister Narendra Modi addressing an interview which will be telecast live.
That's absolutely right. Thank you very much, Rahul. We are almost certain to hear more about this particular issue. Smriti Irani has laid the groundwork for it, expecting the Prime Minister to elaborate on it in that interview that plays out here at 6 p.m.
Thanks for watching the video. For more such news and updates, please like, share and subscribe to India Today. Also check out our other great videos from our channel. We know you would love to.